Hello everyone. So today I'll try to explain how we create the arrays and pass them into methods. So it's just going to be a simple quick video. So we'll create an array of playlists. So we'll just put 5 songs in the array, and then we'll pass them into a method and display them. So the concepts I want you to learn today is pass by value and what that means. So let's start by creating the main method. Okay, so I'm gonna create an array, a string array, and I'll just call it playlist. So in this array, let's put 5 songs. I'll put the names later. So I just want to put 5 songs, and we can call it Christmas, Merry Christmas, Bad Boys, Hosanna, Peaches, and Disco. So this is currently an array that will hold 5 playlists. So what do we want to do? We want to create a method. So we want to create a method that will just be a display method. So because you can see there are no objects in here, so it's gonna be a method that is static and belongs to class. I've shown that video before. So public static, and it doesn't return anything. So we can call it display songs. So what's gonna happen here, we're gonna pass this array into this method. So when you want to pass an array, so you declare it as the same type as you declared in the main method. You can call it the same name. Essentially, when you call it the same name, it doesn't mean it's the same array, because the scoping of the playlist here is within the display songs method, and the scoping of the playlist here is within the main method. And again, I told you, once you declare type before the name of the variable, you are essentially creating a new variable. So so what we want to do here, we want to display the song. So we'll start by putting the message to show that this is your song list. So this is your song list. So we want it to essentially read from this array, which will be passed here. Let me call it a different name so that we don't confuse it with this one. So now what do? We want to display the array. So we can use the for loop. The traditional for loop is better here because it gives you more control of what you want to put. So you can play around with the index here to let it print what you want it to print. So it has to be less than the array. So we use this array that we are passing, not this one. So it has to be less than songs dot length. Then we increment. Okay, and then we just display. So we can display I plus 1 because we want it to say song number 1 is, and then we can now get the contents of this array. So the contents of this array is the index. So each time it iterates, it starts with I equals to 0. So what's in 0 is Merry Christmas. It iterates again. It's 1. What's in 1 is Bad Boys. It iterates again. And each time the corresponding on the left here it will be showing 1. So we are adding 0 plus 1 each iteration, so that it tells us plain, so it starts counting the songs from 1 not 0, which makes sense. So if it's like this and you just compile and run, what's gonna happen? Nothing came out because we didn't call the method. So we need to call the method. So we just call this method right inside the main method, and we pass this array list then into it, because that's the array list. Once you do this, that means you are saying once this it hits this second line and calls this method, it jumps here, and this playlist is going to be copied into the songs, and then essentially the two arrays are pointing at the same location. So that means playlist will point to the location that has this data in it, and songs will point to this location that has that data in it. So if you change what's inside here in songs, it will also change the playlist. But first of all, let's just display the contents of the array. Yes, it displays the contents of the array properly. So let's try to change quickly songs at index 0 and call it changed song. Then you'll see that here now if we print that array, let's use the enhanced for loop to quickly print it. So the enhanced for loop, we use the type of the array. It's not like the traditional one. So because whatever the next thing that is coming here, this I is the actual contents of this playlist. So from I, this is an enhanced loop. We've discussed this one in class. So we're gonna essentially print the contents, and when you use the enhanced loop, you just print the contents of the I you declared or whatever name you put here. So let's see, maybe the best thing is to just put a print statement here to say the content of the playlist after method call. It's gonna show you that this array, the playlist array and the song array, are pointing essentially to the same location. So I'm expecting both these printouts to print change songs at index 0. So let's see if we're right. Yes, so both of them, the one inside the method index 0 is change song, and the one outside is change song. But if we were to copy this line and put it before calling the array, let's put it before we call the method, before we call this method, because once we call this method, that is when the array changes. So let's compile and run. So you see, it keeps the original Merry Christmas on the contents of the playlist before you call, not after, but rather before the method call. So the contents of the playlist before the method call, the 0 at index 0, it's Merry Christmas, but after the method call, it has changed to song. So this is just essentially showing you that before it was copied into this method, it didn't change, but once it's copied into this method, it changed. The playlist contents and the song contents are changing and pointing to the same location of the changed array. So let's create another method quickly that will what can this one is a song choice. Yeah, we are going to call this one a song choice. So this method essentially will let you pick a song by just pointing to its indexes. So the parameters for this method, we can still keep it at song, and then we want to create an index that will let us know which song we picked. So by calling this index, we will be, calling this method, we will have to pass the array here and the index here, and then essentially display the chosen song here. So we can say the chosen song is, and then we can print the chosen song here by just essentially put, so let's say change the name of this array just to avoid confusion again, but even that name is still fine. So this time we use this index, not the I or whatever, because that's the index we are passing into this method. And how do we call this second method? So let's remove this for loop, because at this point we don't need it. We just have a clean code of display or calling methods. So now let's call this method and then we put our array, and then we use this. So remember, when we're using methods, the parameters should be the same number as arguments when you call the method. So let's say we wanted this song to pick Bad Boys, which is a 0 1. It's at index 1. So essentially, once you compile your code, it hits song choice playlist 1, it jumps here, and then the song choice, it will go copy playlist into song choice array, and then it will read index 1, and then it will display it. So this is the end. Oh, let's test if that's the case. Yes, that's the case. So essentially you learned about array, passing it into method, and how passing by value means they are pointing to the same reference. So thank you for watching this tutorial.